I'd like to call the Oakland County Board of Commissioners meeting for July 19th, 2018 to order, and I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioners Berman,
Here.
Commissioner Bowman, Crawford's absent, Commissioner Dwyer,
Here.
Fleming absent, Commissioner Gershenson, Gengel, Hoffman, Jackson,
Here.
Kokendorfer,
Here.
Kowal,
Here.
Long,
Here.
McGilvery,
Here.
Middleton, Quarles, Spiz absent, Taub, Teets,
Here.
Wypert,
Here.
Woodward, Zach.
Here.
Have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. This morning our invocation will be given by the Honorable Eileen Kowal. I'd ask Commissioner Kowal to come forward to the podium, and I'd ask that you all please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Kowal.
Good morning. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now approve the minutes of the June 13th, 2018 meeting, moved by Dwyer, supported by Zach. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The minutes have been approved. Now on to the approval of the agenda, and for that I'll call on the Majority Caucus Chair, Commissioner Shelley Taub. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two changes to the agenda. The first is the Finance Committee, Consent E, Department of Management and Budget, Human Resources, Department County Executive, Compliance Office, Financial and Human Capital Management System Replacement Project. I'd like to waive Rule 9E. The resolution was considered by the HR Committee on July 11th, 2018, prior to Liaison Committee approval, and the resolution was taken up by Finance on July 12th, 2018. The second item is on the consent agenda, and I would like to remove it from the consent agenda under Human Resources. And I'd like to put it on the Human Resources agenda. Remove it from the consent to the regular agenda. And it's A, Department of Human Resources, Corporation Counsel, Purchasing and Compliance and Information Technology, Electronic Communications and Use of Technology Policy. And I'd like to add that to the regular agenda for an amendment. With that, I'd like to move the agenda as changed.
All right, so I have a motion from Taub to move the agenda as amended, and I'll take support from Bowman. Any discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the amended agenda.
Commissioner Bowman,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Gershenson, Gengel,
Yes.
Hoffman, Jackson, Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Long, McGilvery,
Yes.
Middleton, Quarles, Taub,
Yes.
Teets,
Yes.
Wypert, Woodward, Zach,
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
All
right, you have 18 yeas.
Yeah, 18 yeas. The amended agenda has been approved. And it'll bring us to the communications portion of our agenda, and we have a number of individuals that we want to recognize today. And we also have an important presentation that really drives the county, and it's the budget presentation that will be given by our county executive. So I would like to start with the county executive's budget presentation, and I'd like you all to join me in welcoming our county executive, Al Brooks Patterson.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to come over and present the budget that every year gets more complicated than the year before, but I think we have a good, solid presentation to make. Oakland County, we focus, as you all know, on a long-term financial planning. We call that prudent management, not crisis management. And ours is a success now. Our triennial budget, which is now being emulated and attempted to be emulated across this country. It served us well during the Great Recession, and I would argue that we came out of that whole period financially stronger. What I'm recommending to this board this morning is a 3-year balanced budget, and the members of my administration who will present aspects of that budget. We'll start with Jerry Poisson, Bob Dado, Lori Van Pelt, and Jordy Kramer from Human Resources. Between myself making opening remarks and those 4 directors and deputies will fill in the blanks, I think. And then, of course, at the end of the presentation, we will all be available for Q&A. The Oakland County, as you can see, has received all the GFOA very prestigious awards. There's a budget award, the CAF award, and the PAFR, which is the Popular Annual Financial Report. Only 3 governments in Michigan have received all 3 awards. Oakland County, of course, is one. Rochester Hills is the second. And number 3 is Troy. And if you notice, those 3 cities in Michigan, the county, of course, the 2 cities that follow were also Michigan and Oakland County communities. So this county focuses on strong financial planning, even to the local level, and I'm very proud of that. 1984, Oakland County was the first in Michigan and the 11th in the nation to receive the Budget Award, and also the only government in the United States with an award-winning triennial budget. I remember when we first went to Wall Street and presented that triennial budget, really caught their attention. They hadn't seen it before. And we were then the only county in America, and today we remain the only county in America to present a 3-year rolling budget. And I want to thank, obviously, my finance staff, and certainly Lynn Sonkis and her staff at Fiscal Services for their hard work in getting this budget done and presented to you. We have, as you know, been upgraded going back to 1998 with the AAA. So this would be our 21st consecutive year that Oakland County has been awarded the AAA rating, which is, as you know, the highest in the country. Let me quote to you from Moody's. Oh, this is one of their most recent affirmation of the AAA, and they pin comments and narratives along the way. Oakland County demonstrates very strong management characteristics. Despite the onset and lingering effects of the 2007-2009 recession and corresponding loss of operating revenue, the county posted annual operating surpluses and continued to strengthen its financial position. The county annually adopts a 3-year operating budget within a 5-year fiscal forecast. We anticipate continuation of these prudent practices will support the stability of the high credit rating, as well as the low fixed cost burden that enhances the county's capacity to absorb unanticipated cost problems. And that was from Moody, and it's high praise when they go into that. I certainly want to thank all the elected officials here, all of you members of the board, for the support, the give and take that goes on in the whole process of putting together a budget of this size, bumping up against $900 million. And I also want to thank the department heads, managers for their leadership, and also obviously to the county employees who continue year in and year out to deliver such quality services to our citizens. And with that, my next opportunity is to introduce Bob Dado. You all know Bob. He's now one of my top deputies. In his other life before that, he held Lori Van Pelt's position as the Director of Management and Budget. Bob? Yep. Thanks, Bob.
I was just offered good luck from our county executive. Ooh, okay. First thing, we've chatted about AAAs before, and I'm not sure that we have really ever covered what entails the receipt of a AAA. There are a number of factors that go into obtaining a AAA. They are the level of debt, liquidity, and financial management. Generally, those items are controllable by the county or the local unit. Level of debt's obvious. If you have a low level of debt, you have the ability to pay the debt. Again, AAA demonstrates fiscal health and the ability of a local unit to repay the debt sometime in the future. A low level of debt's pretty important. We do have a low level of debt. You take out the OPEB bonds, which is about $260 million, and the debt that is being paid by the local units, largely in the drain area, and quite frankly, our debt that really has to come from local resources is very low. Liquidity is simply cash, and we have liquidity in Oakland County. We have the cash behind things to pay for our operations, our debt service, and our capital programs. We have a high degree of liquidity. I would pit our financial management as another criteria up against anyone in the state and even in the corporate arena. Our financial management is really second to none, and we'll cover that in a few seconds here. But those are controllable pieces that the county has at its ability to manage the operations that they look at fairly hard and intensely. The economy is something that we can address. We do address, quite frankly, through our economic development area. We have data available to do the analyses, unlike many others who can't seem to get the data assembled in order to perform analyses on things like property taxes. Programs, if you will, that have been launched by our county executive, if you will, including not least of which Automation Alley, Emerging Sectors, Main Street, Business Roundtable, and other types of programs that demonstrate to the public and to the bond rating agencies that we're here to stay and we're going to grow. And to that end, the last item that they consider in the evaluation of a AAA is institutional framework. Now, what is that? Each state sets forth their rules and regulations on how to increase revenues or decrease expenses in many areas. And to that end, most communities start out with an A rating as a beginning, and they move the notch up or down from that A rating depending upon things such as level of debt, liquidity, and economy, and so forth. And to that end, obviously, they have seen the benefit in Oakland County on those 4 items to raise our rating up from an A to a AAA for the past 21 years. And this is essentially those particular items that I just chatted about. Moody's has indicated the county annually adopts a 3-year operating budget within a 5-year forecast. That's pretty important, and we constantly reference our budget as being an important item, and it is. But the unsung heroes behind the item are the accountants, who provide timely, accurate, and relevant information to vet the budget. Budgets vet actuals to determine the actuals are correct, and the actuals vet the budget. When you have those items in sync, what you're able to do then is use the budget as a base for projecting into the future as we have for the past 2 dozen years. and to that end, with confidence that the budget is accurate in the future. And to that end, I would submit that our efforts have demonstrated that year in and year out, that this system works that we have in the county, which leads to, if you will, strong financial management as one of the key items in AAA. Balanced budget. We have had a balanced budget for forever, if you will. And to that end, Brooks has commented on that particular item. The board will consider the budget for the next 3 years in 19, 20, and 21 as part of this recommendation. Long-term planning. We have operations in long-term planning. Now, to the item that really I have stated on a number of occasions that really is the unsung, intangible asset that this county has over other counties or other local units, is that we have a countywide culture where, regardless of political party, Dem or Republican or other, I'm not sure we have any others, to that end is fairly rare. At times, and we can see that in various levels of government, that quite frankly, these budgetary decisions become very difficult and very snarky. Even within the darkest times that this county had, we reached across party lines to deal with the tough budgetary decisions in the past, particularly through the Great Recession, and came out swimmingly. Moody's has said, and quite frankly, the county's formal general fund policy, which is another item pertaining to liquidity and if you will, the ability to repay debt, the county's formal general policy requires maintenance of no less than 20% of expenditures and reserves. We do that 3 years out. As current reserve levels exceed the policy, the county is in a position to draw on reserves over the next several years to finance initiatives including reducing the county's operating tax rate, one-time capital expenditures, and investments in human resources. The very structure of our budgeting process is understood by Moody's. And it's a fairly good summary of what we do in our budgeting process and in terms of relying on equity. At no less than 20% of expenditures. Not only do we have, an operating plan in place, we also have a 10-year capital projects plan in place. And to that end, that too is a bit unusual in going out as far as it goes out. It covers not only the maintenance areas, but it also includes things such as electrical upgrades, elevator maintenance, automated building control systems, parking lots, windows, and so forth in the maintenance area. That plan has enabled us to identify needs in the future pertaining to our financial issues. Those are, if you will, identified in the 10-year plan that will come before the board in the next several weeks for consideration. The 10-year plan would include an estimated $30 million bond issue, likely in 2 series over the next several years, to deal with building security improvements, building safety enhancements, ADA improvements, and that will be essentially a $30 million bond that will be bringing requests before the board to fund those particular items. And the board will have an opportunity to chat about each of the individual underlying projects within those 3 categories. In addition, and as part of the radio communications system, or radio if you will, the fee structure that was passed for our operating surcharge anticipates a bonding need of somewhere between 12 to 21 million that will become a little bit more evident sometime later on this summer or early fall as to the exact amount we would need. But we'll have to bond for some portion of the radio improvements that we have going on for not only Oakland County's radio system, but the radio system used by all of our local units as well. We are proposing a salary increase, if you will, for 2019 of 2%. That's up 1% from last year. and 1% going forward, starting in 2020, which will be reviewed at a future time next year when we assemble the budget as well. The increase from 1% to 2% recommendation for 2019 arises from our ability here to draw from fringe benefit fund resources and an equity position higher than what we need longer term. And to that end, that will be something that we would be able to use in order to provide an increase of 2%, up 1% from last year in our proposal. We also have a compensation study going on, and that compensation study should be resolved sometime in the next few months and brought before the board for discussion topic. But because we do not have the final results of the compensation study, we have set aside 1% contingency in the 2019 budget for any potential classification adjustments and rate adjustments for employees, so that we've set money aside for that compensation study going into the future. More to follow on that from our HR department as they discuss that effort with the Board of Commissioners this summer and fall. And finally, our retirees' health care plans are fully funded, both including pension as well as the OPEB, as you know. And I was on the pension commission for the governor in issuing their pension compensation. There was probably about 15 people on that commission. And I can tell you that the local units in other counties are struggling, not so much in the pension area, but in the OPEB area tremendously. It is a real serious problem the state has, with the state itself having a $51 billion unfunded balance in their own pension and obligations, and the state's local units, if you will, having somewhere in the order of about 10 to 15 billion in unfunded pension and OPEB obligations. To put that in perspective for Oakland County, Oakland County's pension plan is over 100% funded. It's about 103%. In the case of our OPEB, we are 141% funded. I would challenge any government in the United States to have as well funded an OPEB plan as we have in protections. And if you've been reading the articles in the Free Press and news of recent, just the last couple of days, they're running articles on how the retirees in Detroit, through the plan of adjustment bankruptcy, if you will, have been damaged with regards to the OPEB. Some of that's coming to our local units, but not necessarily in Oakland County. In Oakland County, for example, and I neglected to mention this, that there are three, Standard & Poor's has identified 3 counties, if you will, that are AAA, Kent, Washtenaw, and Oakland. And of the 14 AAA counties, which indicate fiscal health, if you will, of the 14 cities, villages, and townships who have AAA, in Michigan, 10 of the 14 are in Oakland. The other 3 are the Grosse Pointes and some community I've never heard of. Our local units are generally well off and better funded in pension and health care, but this is one set of areas that is going to trip up the fiscal health of local units going forward, and we're financially strong in that area. We note that the county has demonstrated a history of achieving positive budget variances through strong controls, which are a key factor in the county's positive operating results. There should be no surprise there. Due to statutory limitations on both tax base and tax levy growth in Michigan, annual growth in property taxes and total county revenue has been very modest. I'm now running around talking about resource constraints. And to that end, other folks are going to be resource constrained, if you will, not least of which is the county, in the next 10 years. While these limitations continue to hold back revenue growth going forward, we expect the county's close monitoring of expenditures, conservative budgeting, and currently low fixed cost burden will support ongoing financial stability despite planned usage of available resources for one-time purposes. That isn't something we wrote. That's something Moody's wrote. And to that end, their objective in identifying our fiscal strength relative to others. And that says pretty much it all, and I would submit there's going to be a lot of folks here, particularly if we have a downturn in the market, that will be harmed pretty badly in the pension and OPEB area. We will be able to weather that storm. And now, it's time for Lori.
Good morning. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Brooks. So I'm going to go through a very high-level explanation of major budget highlights. But I wanted to mention that on August 2nd, Lynn Sonkis will be presenting a more detailed, drilled-down version, also at a high level. But this is a summary of the 623-page line item budget document that you should have all received, I believe, a couple weeks ago. And then I believe yesterday you should have received a categorical analysis document that shows the different variances by department. So that gets into even more detail. And Lynn's going to go through some very high-level detail about changes within the general fund areas, revenue categories, and expenditure categories, as well as by fund and some other high-level discussions. But so mine is like way up here. Lynn's is going to be much more drilled down on August 2nd at the Finance Committee budget hearing kickoff. So as you can see from this chart, we basically have our three-year balanced budget is shown here, and you can see there's very modest increases in the general fund, general purpose budget as compared to the prior year's budget, as well as in special revenue and the other funds, proprietary funds, et cetera. So when you look at all funds, very modest increases, and you'll notice the 2.3% increase in comparison to this current fiscal year for next fiscal year, and as Bob mentioned, a lot of that includes the 2% general salary increase that's being recommended. So just wanted to point that out. So very modest increases, primarily because of the limitations in tax revenue, which is going to be the next thing that I talk about. As you can see from this chart, this shows the decreases that we experienced as a result of the Great Recession, which continued beyond that point of time because housing values were slow to come back. And so you can see that the change in state equalized value or market value decreased by over 34% during that time, and taxable value, which currently represents about 55% of the general fund, general purpose, ongoing revenue budget, if you exclude use of fund balance, that taxable value decreased by almost 24% in that time period. Since then, beginning with 2013 through the last 5-year period, you can see that market value has come back, and you've probably been reading all of the newspaper articles about how, there's a shortage of inventory in housing and how houses don't sit on the market very long and they're selling for good money. Well, that's the assessed value. That's the state equalized value that you can see there in the darker green, and that's up over 41% since the economy has turned around and housing values started coming back up. But you can see that we're still about 7.6% below the peak market values before values started declining in 2007. In terms of taxable value, you can see it only came up about 16.4%, or we're still 13% below the peak that we experienced in 2007. So we are still living within a constrained budget. We are still continuing to use fund balance, which I'm going to talk in a little bit, and how that affects our long-term general fund equity position. Before that, though, I just wanted to show you the assumptions included for property tax revenue estimates. So you can see there's primarily two parts that we look at, and this is very simplified. But this is a very simplified chart to show you that we're assuming that there will be a 2.3% increase in CPI to determine the 2019 tax levy increase for the county's millage rate. That's pretty much in the bank this year because the CPI that will be used for next year is based on the CPI change that is for the period of October 1st that began last year in 2017 through September 30th of this year. So we're almost there at the 2.3%. Dave Heber does a very good job. We all get together with administration. Dave shows us all of the data, and then we all come to consensus, and that 2.3% consensus is pretty much spot on. Then what we do is we look at all of the economic forecasts going forward, including the University of Michigan economists that come and do the economic outlook forecast. We look at the state of Michigan. We look at quarter by quarter forecasting that we get from banks, for example. So based on that data and their forecasts, we're assuming a 2.5% CPI increase for the 2020 and 2021 tax years. So in addition to that, we expect some percentage increases for economic activity. That would be things like homes getting sold, which has another effect on the Headley rollback, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's one part. New construction, which would include new houses or additions to homes. So though that is the 2.7% increase that you see for next tax year, and then we're being conservative and we're expecting that that could go down a little bit to 2% in 2020 and 2021. Some of the reasons for that concern is we do not know, for example, what effect the federal tax policy changes will have on that type of value going forward. For example, the limitations on the state and local tax deduction to $10,000 if you itemize, what effect will that have for taxable value and mortgage interest rate since it's limited at $10,000, and for married couples the standard deduction far exceeds that. So if people aren't itemizing, then maybe that will change their housing buying decisions. We don't know. So we're being cautious about that going forward. So you can see a total change in taxable value going forward totals 5% for next year, 4.5% for each of 2020 and 2021. And here are some of the issues on property tax revenue. The biggest one obviously being the combined effect of Headley and Proposal A changes that happened in 1994. And these are the variables that affect those calculations. I won't get into all of that. You can read that for yourself. But you can see the summary that I gave you is much more complex. There's a lot of math and equations that happen in the background before we can arrive at some of those assumptions that are included in the recommended budget. This gives you the history of the county's millage rate for general operations going back to 1994 when Proposal A basically took effect, and how the millage rollback affected the county's maximum authorized millage rate. That's depicted in the dotted red line at the top of the screen. The solid green line is what the county actually levied historically and currently, and in comparison to that maximum authorized rate. So you can see that for that 10-year period, basically from 2005, I believe, through 2015, there was no rollback in the maximum authorized rate. That's because of the suppression on the residential values and the low CPI and all those other variables that I talked about going forward. So we pretty much were able to keep our millage rate at 4.19 mils, which was still less than the maximum authorized rate. But you can see prior to that period, there was quite a steep decrease in the maximum authorized millage rate. And now that the economy has improved, we expect that that maximum authorized millage rate will continue now to become, again, steeply rolled back like we experienced before the 10-year recessionary period that Michigan experienced. So currently we're at 4.04 mils, and we expect that for fiscal year 2020, that we will likely have to recommend a decrease in the county's millage rate below the 4.04 mils. And why do we need to do that? Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we are levying a millage for the budget purposes and the recommendation well below the maximum authorized rate, because when the state of Michigan changed the law in 2004 through Michigan Public Act 357, what they did at that time is they changed the county, for all counties, they changed the levy from December to July at that point in time. So the July tax bill that just came out for everyone just a couple weeks ago for the county, that actually covers the fiscal year that started last October 1. So we're always levying our taxes in arrears of when our actual operating period occurs. And by the time those taxes come in, we're about 10 months into the fiscal year before we actually start collecting the revenue that makes up 55% of our operating budget. So you can see that it's important for us to continue to monitor these and do this long-term fiscal plan with this Headley rollback in mind. That's probably one of the most important things that we have to estimate in developing the budget recommendation. And here are the variables that impact the millage rollback. I'm not going to go into that, but I wanted to put them here so you can see that there's also a lot of variables that go into that rollback calculation. And here's a little bit of history going back to 2005 that I referenced, when the maximum authorized millage rate was pretty much frozen for a 10-year period. And you can see the history here as to what the differential or the gap was. And you can see here that in 2020, we're expecting that we will recommend a millage rate of 4.00 mils. So basically a 0.04 millage reduction. We're anticipating that we'll need to recommend a millage reduction again in 2022 down to 3.95 mils, and then again the following year down to 3.9 mils. So that's what's in the 5-year long-term fiscal plan that you saw when we published it in April and is reflected in this budget recommendation. So Bob talked about some of the major expenditure items, such as the capital plan and the change in salaries. I'm going to talk at this point how that affects fund balance. So the effect on fund balance includes the annual operations recommendation and use of fund balance, and also one-time funding for special projects. And as Bob mentioned, that's something that Wall Street looks at, and it's also something that makes Oakland County unique, because I'm going to tell you, I don't see a lot of governments that actually pay attention to what the forecasted equity balances are in connection with the annual operating budget recommendation. So most governments, they don't do a 3-year budget, they do a 1-year budget. They don't do a 10-year capital plan like we do, and they don't do a 5-year long-term forecast such as we do. And so that makes us a little bit unique, and on top of that, saying, okay, how does this look at fund balance? And we try to look at that in conjunction with the commissioner's adopted policy for a minimum of 20% of general fund equity in comparison to annual operations. So what you see here is the recommended budget and the 5-year fiscal plan on what we think we need to use for general fund equity to support ongoing operations. So we're still relying on use of general fund equity, and we built up fund equity purposefully during the Great Recession because we knew that we needed to balance for the longer term, and we're still using that fund equity to support ongoing operations that our citizens depend upon. And so you can see that over the next 5 years, we're still using it, but it is declining to support general operations. So for next fiscal year's budget, we're recommending that we use $34 million of general fund equity to support ongoing operations, and then that decreases down to $16.1 million by the time we get to 2023. Now we do budget for full staffing, meaning for every single position that this Board of Commissioners authorizes, we have a strong position control system, and we budget 100% of assumed occupancy of each position. So we do not assume, I don't know what that noise is. We do not assume that we're going to have any turnover in the operating budget, but we know realistically that we will have some turnover, and that will result in some favorable surpluses, hopefully, to the general fund operations at fiscal year end. And we need that sometimes to pay for unexpected things that might come up. So we assume that we'll have $8 million of turnover savings for operations each year, which brings then down the expected use of fund equity for ongoing operations down to $26 million for next year, and by 2023 down to $8.1 million. And then we have the one-time uses of fund balance for one-time capital projects. In the green there, you'll see that that represents the technology projects that we will be bringing to you. That's been in the fiscal plan, it's been in the budget message. I can tell you the big project is on your agenda today. That's for the financial system replacement. That's included in that use of fund equity, as well as some other projects that's coming forward. And then that purple is the $2 million that the Board of Commissioners approves for individual tri-party road improvement projects going forward. And one thing that I would like to tell you is that because we budget for full employment, we do usually result in favorable use of fund balance and favorable surpluses. So you can see there that the green reflects the actual results of operations. So you can see that in 2016, we actually used about $5 million of fund balance, and that included the $7 million transfer for the animal control debt service. So for last fiscal year, that reflects the actual results of operations, where instead of actually using fund balance, we ended up with a $9.3 million surplus. But some of that is because we didn't use it for maybe the capital projects. It might have been a timing issue, so some of those might be coming forward this year. So here is the graphical representation of the historical use of fund balance, and you can see that by the time we get to 2023, we're pretty much right at that 20% targeted minimum level in comparison to general fund operations. So while it looks like we have a significant amount of fund balance currently, as I mentioned, we are using some of that for general fund operations and to support some capital projects going forward. So that is the forecasted outlook, and that's something that we need to keep in mind as we go forward, so that we can continue our AAA rating, because I'd like to mention that that AAA rating really helps your individual communities out, because most of our debt supports the water and sewer projects in your individual communities. They get a lower interest rate because of our good financial management for those projects. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jordy.
Thank you, Lori. So I'm going to give you an overview of human resources and our workforce, recruitment and retention, retirement, and benefits and wellness. And just to give you a little bit of a summary, our current workforce has 3,513 full-time eligible employees. We have 1,400 part-time employees, 27 college interns, and 400 summer employees. And to the right, you'll see the years of service that these employees have with us right now. In the last year, our workforce increased by 3.3%. That's 113 new employees. And we continue to see a steady amount of retirements over the years, and we're taking steps to rebuild and establish a strong foundation to recruit and retain a talented workforce going forward. However, we are met with continued low unemployment rate, a greater competition in the job market. We are seeing that in the next 3 to 5 years, baby boomers are continuing to exit the workforce. There's a greater competition in the job market, a shortage of skilled and qualified workers, particularly in skilled maintenance, law enforcement, and information technology. and we're seeing a labor force participation that is trending downward. Our recruitment efforts consist of the county bounty. We're establishing a relationship with the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, continuing to build relationships with colleges, university schools, and technical schools, and continuing to work with our disabled worker program. This was the first summer that we used the county bounty for a summer position. We were in dire need of lifeguards, and so we established a county bounty for a summer position. Currently, there are 9 employees that will receive payment of approximately, it's actually $323 for a referral for a summer position. So actually lifeguards across the board, there was a shortage across the United States. So it's not just here in Oakland County, but it's a national problem. With the Disabled Worker Program, I am proud to say we have 13 placements throughout 8 departments, and they are listed here. Our goal by 2019 is to have 20 placements throughout the county. We are proud to say that one of our placements was hired full-time with county employment, and 2 have been hired as part-time employees. So we consider this still a pilot program, but we consider it to be a success because 3 of our participants have been hired to employment with the county. We see Oakland County as an employer that's continuing to invest in its workforce so employees can establish career routes. We are strengthening our employee development so that employees can enhance and foster, employee training and development can enhance performance and foster an environment of excellence in public service. We are working with departments on succession planning, training needs. We are currently in the process of revamping our supervisory training program and developing a needs assessment, meeting with all of the department directors and elected officials to find out what their needs are in hiring good supervisors and employees. We are increasing our marketing efforts for training. We have a tuition reimbursement program, which you, I'm sure, are aware of. It pays out $1,400 per semester. It's a maximum of $4,000. We have seen a decline in tuition reimbursement, unfortunately, and we are committed to a strong marketing campaign to encourage our employees to utilize tuition reimbursement so that they can better their skills and look for additional career opportunities within Oakland County. This fall, I'm proud to announce that we will be having an on-site career fair for our employees, which they will be able to look for other opportunities within Oakland County so that we can keep our employees here, keep our talent within our county. Last year, we talked to you about the Talent Management Advisory Team. In September 2017, the Talent Management Advisory Team concluded, and they made recommendations in several categories. First and foremost was recruitment. Their recommendation consisted of increasing efficiency and improvements to our hiring process, improving the new employee orientation and onboarding experience for all new hires, and to improve communication, consistency of all internal communication for county employees, as well as the retention and development for employees. We are currently vetting all of the recommendations by the Talent Management Advisory Team, and we will be coming back to the Human Resources Committee to further discuss those recommendations. 2 of the items that have been implemented right now are the career fair and the telegraph, which is on the intranet right now. It's a portal in which communication is pretty much out there for employees to look for information and get, I'll say, information right away. Stories are out there. We used to have the printed version of the telegraph, but now they are able to see the stories pretty much as they are written. In regards to employee compensation, we have 825 classifications on the salary administration plan. Our current plan is a point factor plan. We have recognized that it may be a bit outdated. It is over 30 years old. And as Bob mentioned, we are currently in the process of our job evaluation comp study. We are hopeful to be back to the HR committee and before the board perhaps late this year with some recommendations from our comp study. And I'll discuss this a little bit further. We had 44% participation rate with our job analysis questionnaires by the comp study that we just completed. The company that we are working with is Management Advisory Group, and they are in the process of vetting all of that information. We are looking at a total compensation review, so this also includes the retirement and benefits, and we are anticipating a recommendation late this fall. This chart depicts the incremental changes that we have made to retirements and benefits dating back to 1980. There have not been any significant structural change to healthcare and retirement in the last year, with the minor exception that we did transfer both ICMA and Fidelity over to Prudential. That is the new record keeper for the retirement. Both ICMA, Fidelity, that would be the DB, the DC, and the 457 plans. Prudential has committed to continuing the same programs that both ICMA and Fidelity offer to our employees, and that's the on-site consultations. They have lunch and learns, and we also have continued the relationship with Greystone for the one-on-one meetings with employees and retirees. We have seen increased participation with the county match of the $500. That is a voluntary program. This is a pre-tax savings program available to employees, and we were very excited to see the match over the increase in the participation in the last 2 years. And finally, I wanted to just mention in regards to the wellness program, OakFit, we gave a presentation to the HR committee a couple of weeks back. The program was established in 2006. It is open to all employees, retirees, and their dependents. It's allowing our employees to take ownership of their health to improve the quality of life and productivity, which helps stabilize employee and employer health care costs. Over the course of the last 12 years, the program has flourished. We offer programs such as the Brooksy Way Couch to 5K, the Employee Market Day at the Farmers Market. We have partnered with Waterford Schools, which allows employees and families to utilize the pool and fitness center. We have Fitness Unleashed, monthly lunch and learns, the annual wellness fair, and preventative care programs, Weight Watchers at Work. And going forward, OakFit will continue to focus on employee education and engagement, on preventative care, and exploring ways to continue to grow the program. As Oakland County plans on continuing to invest in its workforce so that employees can allow their career roots to take root here at Oakland County. I'll turn it over to Jerry.
The cheering was for Ms. Kramer, who was a dedicated professional who makes me feel old because she was my high school co-op in the prosecutor's office when I started. So thank you, Jordy. Just very quickly, let me touch upon the things we're watching that can affect this budget in 19 and then again going forward that are potentially large ticket items. The first one, since 2013, I've sat on the sidelines warning you that there's a potential rather dramatic financial impact for the indigent defense, Michigan indigent defense improvements that the legislature's enacted, the new mandates imposed by the MEDC, have certainly monetary impact that goes beyond what they've initially indicated they would fund. We are the funding unit for the Sixth Circuit Court, we being Oakland County, as well as for the 52nd District Court, which has 4 election divisions. The first 4 standards developed by the MIDC were approved in 2017. They required the development of a plan, which through the good offices of Malcolm Brown and the Marianne Jergy especially, working in conjunction with the Circuit Court, the prosecutor's office, and of course the sheriff, they've sat down and we've tried to develop a plan in compliance with the law, both the law that the state at this point recognizes and the law we think that it also should apply. For the first 4 standards, the county submitted the compliance plans 3 times so far. Under the current law, the state's opportunity is to either accept a plan in full or reject a plan in full. So we are now sitting at 3 rejections, and we are off to the statutorily mandated mediation process. Now, when I say that, understand that we still did the plan. We still have every intention of executing the parts of the plan that we know the state agrees with. The state recently amended the law, so effective in December of this year, they're going to be able to reject and accept a plan in parts. And as we'll see here, the parts that they really object to the most of is they don't want to add hours for magistrates, new magistrate time, and they don't want to support any prosecutorial functions. And so that's the bone of contention, and I'm pretty sure we've pretty much agreed on the other things as a start. The 3 plans that have been rejected by the MIDC, we have that understanding and that we will implement them going forward, and we'll continue our essentially a mediation process on those parts that the state deems they won't fund. What was rejected specifically was $137,000 for 1,800 magistrate hours. Understand that the requirements for the magistrates now will be to have as a critical stage, the arraignment on the warrant will involve the appearance of an appointed defense counsel for those who are indigent. And basically what it does pragmatically in the real world is it adds time to the magistrate's appearance there, and so there's going to be some more hours needed. The other thing they did is they made a new critical stage in the criminal process. And the arraignment on the warrant historically was an affair where a defendant was brought before a court within 24 hours of a custodial arrest as a general rule, and notified that there was a charge against them, set bond, and entered an initial plea for them. It was almost administrative in nature. They've now made it a critical stage, and they've determined that the defense counsel should be there. Because it's a critical stage, it's going to be represented by defense counsel, and there'll be bond arguments. The prosecutor feels that she needs additional prosecutors so they can be present at these proceedings. And her request to us was that we include 23 prosecutor positions and a data system so she can comply with the law. The price tag on that is something just over $3 million. The state has adopted a policy that, regardless of the fact that they created a new critical stage, they will not support any prosecutorial functions through the grant program. And that's probably going to be the largest bone of contention going forward. As you can see, the county is required to enter into the mediation process, which we will. Frankly, if we can't resolve the issue through mediation and discussions, ultimately we'll implement those parts of the plan, as I said, we agreed with, and then we will undoubtedly resort to litigation because we believe that there are strong Headley implications here. The amendments that become effective in December that's important is that they've also increased the local share amount by inflation, or 3%, whatever is less. So that's a continuing burden that will go up each year for the county's general fund. And for the extent that we make collections from the quote-unquote partially indigent defendants, we're going to have to start turning 20% of those proceeds over to the state that they'll recycle back into the fund. Again, in the real world, pragmatically, the amount you collect is probably going to determine how much effort you put into going after these folks, because you're not going to run an operation where you spend $1 million to collect $100,000. So Oakland County's got a fairly good track record. I believe we're at about $900,000 a year that we collect from payment plans and what have you. But we would look for the fact that if you can't run a process that at least breaks even, both here and across the state, we think the efforts will lessen. But it's to be determined. The next 4 standards will be interesting. Those will be coming soon, and they are independence from the judiciary, which means you remove the management of the appointment of counsel away from the the courts and to the executive branch / administrative branch of government. The indigent defense work caseloads. Unlike the prosecutors who have no caseload standards that are enforced by the state, they are going to impose caseload standards. As I recall, they're looking at a standard now of 400 misdemeanor cases that are non-traffic as a reasonable standard for a defense counsel. And if you're doing felony work, it's 150 felonies per year. Capital cases will be their own and unique level, but depending on the amount of cases that are written in any given year, you can see that that standard would cause a fluctuation in the need for defense counsel. Attorney qualifications and review is an interesting concept. The county for the defense bar, but just for defense counsel who represent indigent defendants, will be responsible for ensuring that they meet training standards. Training is provided and that we pay them, pay for the training. So that will be another cost that as the outline of that goes forward, we'll have a better handle on what it will cost. And then compensation, attorney incentives and disincentives. What they're talking about is there's different standards out there. You can have an indigent defense office where it's just another county office and you would pay folks. You can do an event pay system, which is what Oakland County does right now. Counsel is paid according to the event. A preliminary examination is X amount of dollars. Different hearings are different money. And then you can have an hourly system. What they're looking at in an hourly system is a fair representation, a fair compensation package that doesn't disincent efforts in a case, but also doesn't pay too much. So what they're really talking about, is my understanding, is $110 an hour for misdemeanors, $120 for felonies, and then adjustment for capital cases. So we don't have what that will cost yet. We know that in the end, as this evolves out and we see how many defense counsel want to participate in the program, the county may be in the end compelled to create a indigent defender's office, which with capital costs and everything, first year could be something in the neighborhood of $30 million, which would affect your budget. The other issues that we're watching closely in terms of the criminal justice side is the 17-year-old offender change from treating them as adults to making them juveniles. The hidden cost on that, the state is studying. The state, I'm told, wasn't happy with the initial estimates. The outside consultant came up on what that was going to cost because it's quite expensive, but they are pursuing that. Again, pragmatically for us, we don't have facilities sufficient to handle 17-year-olds as juveniles separate from the 13 and 14-year-old offenders we have in Children's Village, and you really can't mix based upon degree of offense and severity those populations. And also what my Children's Village staff called the mythical existence of programs that are designed to help the 17-year-olds as juveniles versus the criminal offenders that are treated as now. They will need to be developed and, of course, funded. So budgetarily speaking, that's what those concerns are. I'm sure you've heard Mr. Dado in the past talk about the other resource competition, the infrastructure for transportation, water, sewer, and communications. The state estimated we need $4 billion in new money per year going forward for the foreseeable future. As I recall, the legislative reaction to that was to introduce legislation to get rid of the income tax. So I'm not sure how they're going to balance that, but to the extent they come up with the fixes, it's going to impact the money available for us locally to meet our needs and for local units as well. The road funding plan that was approved in 2015 is intended to provide $1.2 billion by 2022. And on that, we'll see where is that going to come from, because the whole idea is there's a fixed sum of money up there. When they start making cuts to fund the road, what are they going to do to indigent defense? What are they going to do to the child care fund? What are they going to do to CMH? All the other resource competitions that we have out there will be a thing that we continue to watch. In closing, let me just again say that, of course, the recommended budget is balanced through 2021. The longer-term 5-year forecast includes a diminishing use of general fund balance through 2023. The fund balance will continue to be monitored prior to recommending use of it for capital projects. And as always, when we make a decision on what to recommend to you to fund out of those monies, it comes to you for the final decision. And with that, we look forward to our budget hearings over the next month. To answer your questions, I invite you to send questions before hearings to us so we make sure we have the information you want to know about and any handouts necessary at those hearings. And thank you for your attention. If you have any questions right now, we'd be happy to answer them, or we'll see you then. Commissioner, please.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to thank you for, again, coming and doing this presentation, and to let you know how much I appreciate all the work this team does to maintain our AAA bond rating. I'm very proud of the economics of our county. I just wanted to make one comment about the HR report. I kept waiting to hear our commitment to diversity. That word is not mentioned in that report, so I just want to be assured that we do have a commitment to hiring a diverse workforce, and one that represents and looks like the residents that we all represent.
Well, we do, and I guess if the way I'd say this is when we put together the group of employees to determine what Oakland County's workforce should look like and what talents and skill we should go after, we made more than a concerted effort to make sure that it was inclusive that way to get that input and then going out. So the name of the game in this county, we're home to 1,000 foreign-owned businesses. We invite the diversity from around the world because we need the talent base. There are strong, and there are strength is the economic status, because we think everything starts with a job for everybody, and that's how you promote. You get a job, maybe you can get a home, get home ownership. You can afford a school, you can take care of your family, you can use these things. That's inherent in everything we do, and it will continue to be. And I think in terms of detail, we can lay that all out for you and be thrilled to meet with you and show you what it is.
So I know that the administration will be coming before the Finance Committee on August 2nd to have a deeper discussion of the budget, and we've been working through a process since April. So, you know, maybe we'll take a couple more questions if there are today, and then we'll just follow our normal process and allow us to move on to the other items. So if there's a couple other questions that people want, Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Jerry and Bruce Patterson and the whole team for an excellent presentation. And I think you've given us a great document to work from. At one time, I recall, I think Oakland County had the lowest millage rate in the state, or somewhere around there. Can you tell us how we compare right now with our millage rate with other counties?
We are either 2 or 3, depending on either Bob's telling me piece and Laura's telling me 3 or what have you. I think the difference between our millage rate when you're measuring, just always remember, ours is an all-in number. We're including the cost we owe on health care, the OPEB and the pension. And most the couple that you see that are lower than ours doesn't have that number in. So all in, I'm quite confident in terms of real operating, we're the lowest because we've taken care of our obligations.
Anything else for today? If not, I guess on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank our County Executive Brooks Patterson and his team coming out and presenting the budget to us today. And we appreciate the effort and the leadership and the work that's gone into it, and look forward to moving towards adoption within the scheduled time frame. So thank you for coming out today. Now, we also have a few additional special guests that we want to recognize as part of the communication portions of our agenda, and we have a few proclamations and a presentation that we want to work through. So I'll start with Commissioner Marcia Gershenson.
Commissioner Taub, did you want to join us? I'd like to introduce Michael Goldman Brown and Ria Doshi from Bloomfield Township High School. I'd like to read the proclamation, and then I have a few words to say about these two young students who actually are part of a bigger group. The other students weren't able to come. But they founded this organization called Engage 18, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization founded in February by Zachariah Farah and Michael Goldman Brown. And their mission is to involve young people in politics through voter registration, candidate debates, and town halls. Under the leadership of Michael Goldman Brown Jr., Zachariah Farah, Brandon Crimmins, Deborah Moratis, and Ria Doshi. Engage 18 consists of students from over 15 high schools across southeastern Michigan. After the tragic shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, the members of Engage 18 have focused their efforts on ending gun violence in America. Michael has graduated and is a co-founder and serves as an event coordinator for the organization and has been interested in politics, which is great to hear, and worked on several political campaigns. Zachariah, who isn't here, is a graduate also and a co-founder and serves as an event coordinator and plans to study biochemistry at U of M. Brandon is a junior, so we're hoping he will continue your work, who serves as a policy analyst, and he has created a brief and the bylaws for the organization. Deborah is a junior, so we're hoping she will continue, who manages the social media, and Ria is also a junior. So I look forward to seeing you next year to hear about what you've done, and serves as a communication manager for education for Engage 18. So I, along with most of our commissioners and our chair, Michael Gingell, do hereby proclaim special commendation to these remarkable Bloomfield Hills High School student leaders for their leadership. So thank you very much. And I just wanted to add a personal note that today is about encouraging you to continue to work, to keep our schools and our communities safe. We represent every community in Oakland County. We have a police commissioner from Macomb who chairs the gun safety committee, Commissioner Dwyer, and I want you to know that we all stand behind you. If you have a project, please come and talk to our gun safety committee to see if we can help or be involved. We have several bipartisan resolutions today that reaffirm our commitment to make our communities and schools safer. We need your youthful commitment, energy, and drive to continue this quest and to honor all of those who we've lost to senseless violence. So I personally want to thank you on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. If any commissioners would like to join me for this picture, you're welcome.
Next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Defeat the Label. As you all will remember, the last year or two, we have been working on issues around anti-bullying and items of that nature within the schools. And while the funding for the school operations is the responsibility of the school and the ISD, the board has stepped forward to put some innovative programs in place. And today, we have the folks from Defeat the Label here to talk to us about that program. So I'll ask Jamie to come forward, and I don't know if you're set up for a formal presentation or you're more than welcome to just talk to it. So please come up to the front here and welcome.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Commissioner Gingell and all of the commissioners for having us today. Obviously, as you mentioned, the commission has been very generous in supporting the programming through in several Oakland County schools over the last 2 years, and we wanted to take a moment to share with you a little bit about the organization, what we've been doing, where the funding has been going, and to make you aware of the continued need for support if that's possible. When each of you get back to your mailboxes this afternoon, you'll find that you have 2 pieces of paper from Defeat the Label, which will give you a little bit more detail in depth about what I'm going to speak to you all about today. Okay. So Defeat the Label, I don't know how many of you actually know about the organization or who know how you guys know where it came from and everything else. So just to give you a little bit of background, Defeat the Label is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It is headquartered in West Bloomfield, Michigan, but we work throughout the state. The organization was actually started by 2 parents who are also businessmen in Oakland County, Jeff Sakwa and Kevin Goldman. In 2011, they met with a number of schools in Oakland County because they wanted to do something. They had started a couple educational foundations benefiting schools in Oakland County, and they wanted to see what their next steps were because they're philanthropic individuals who are dedicated parents. And when they went to several schools in Oakland County at that time, they were surprised to learn that bullying, social labeling, and suicide resulting from the bullying and the social labeling were at the top of the list. Thus, they created Defeat the Label to address these needs. Our goal is to address social labeling and bullying in the schools by working directly with the students. We do this through a variety of programming, including our Community Conversation on Bullying, which is our yearly conference for educators, parents, and students. We do it through our in-school assemblies. We do it through our parents' nights. But most importantly, we do it through our Upstander program, which is our in-depth, interactive in-school programming where we go into the schools 8 times throughout the period of the year and work with a select group of students. There we go. Each program is designated to facilitate the leadership abilities of the students, critical thinking skills, providing training methods. The goal is to make students realize that bystander syndrome, which is something that we see commonly, especially in middle schools and high schools, is not an acceptable form of reaction. It's actually dangerous, right? One of the things that we talk about a lot with our students is, what is the bystander? A bystander is literally somebody who sees something and says, well, glad it's not happening to me, and they walk on by. Well, what's dangerous about bystanding? It becomes dangerous when we see things that we know that we should speak up against, when we see things that we know that could escalate. And what we want to do is work with the students to inspire them and to help them think of and create new ways to address these situations. During the 8 sessions that we are in the schools, we work on 8 specific topics with the students: courage, responsibility, judgment, diversity, bullying, peer pressure, advocacy, and action. When I say bullying for lesson 5, because the whole program is built up around bullying, what is bullying, how bullying happens, how do we address it, that lesson is more specifically set up to look at different types of bullying. What is the actual definition of bullying? It's funny, we're all adults here, and I feel like we all think that we know what bullying is, but if I were to ask any one of you guys in here today, any one of you wonderful commissioners or audience members, if you could actually give a definition for what bullying is, how many of you guys think that you might be able to do it? An actual definition. Do you want me to pick on you and ask you what it is? I'm not a bully. Wait. Um, no, but one of the things that I think is always surprising, especially to parents, especially because so many of the schools get calls from parents saying, my child is being bullied, my child is being attacked, this is happening. And when you look at the situation, you say, no, your child not being invited to this particular birthday party isn't bullying, right? It's about learning what is bullying. Bullying is repeated, it is frequent, it is often, it is aggressive. It is purposeful in its nature. There is often an imbalance of power between the bully and the victim, right? Those different components are what actually equals bullying, at least in most situations, right? So working with those situations so students know what bullying is, they can identify it, and then giving them strategies to address it and overcome it. Upstanders. An upstander is literally the opposite of a bystander. They stand up for somebody else. They help other people if needed, and they report situations to an adult. This is a lot of what we go with, especially in the middle schools for the students, right? Giving them the strategies so that they can enact these situations, these solutions to problems that they see. So now, to get right to the meat of it, in the 2016, 2017, and 2017-2018 academic years, we were fortunate to receive funds from Oakland County Board of Commissioners via a grant to the schools. As Commissioner Gingell explained, for those of you who don't know, we worked with the ISD to identify at-risk schools in Oakland County to receive the funding from the Commission. Over the last 2 years, these schools have really kind of spread over Oakland County. They've included Geisler Middle School, Abbott Middle School, and where you see a 2, that means that we've done 2 years of programming at those schools. Schools that have received more than 1 year of programming have done so because in our pre and post surveys, in our analyses of the schools, there is while the program is working, and we are excited about that, there's always an influx of new students that are coming in. And so, unfortunately, because we work with the same, well, I'll explain that in a second, excuse me. The school continues to have problems. Not in the group of students that we're working with, but in the new students who are coming in. So, for example, in certain schools, for example, in Abbott Middle School, we're always working with the 7th graders. Which is great because the 7th graders become 8th graders and then they can start to make changes. The issue becomes the 6th graders who are coming in, so then we're working with them as 7th graders. So that's why you see certain schools have 2 years. So as I was saying, Geisler Middle School in Walled Lake, Abbott Middle School in West Bloomfield High School in West Bloomfield, Ferndale Middle School in Ferndale, Anderson Middle School in Berkeley, Ferndale High School in Ferndale, Berkeley High School, and University High in Ferndale. These were all schools that were identified because they had been requesting programs through the ISD, but they lacked the funds to bring in said programs. After meeting and discussing in depth with Dr. Wanda Cook Robinson and Dr. Mike Yoakum at the ISD, these were the schools that we have identified and have worked with.
May I?
Yes.
I represent a lot of those schools that you're talking about, and I would reframe it and say that they're positively addressing concerns that have been brought, rather than them being problem schools. Because I think universally this is an issue, but these school systems are taking action to address it effectively.
100%, Commissioner Zach, and I apologize for framing it in that matter. I think that especially the schools that are stepping up, that are saying, we would love to bring this program in because we see how it would be beneficial to us, are schools that are proactive and are addressing these issues head on. These are all schools that have been wonderful to work with because they're so embracing of addressing these issues. And you can see in the feedback that we get from the schools what a difference it makes to the school. So you're absolutely right, and I apologize for addressing it or framing it in a manner that didn't express that. No, you're 100% right, 100% right. In feedback from the schools, and this goes to what you were just bringing up, for the schools to identify, I think it takes a lot for schools to identify and to speak up and say, we want to bring in a program like this. And so for the schools to do that, it's a tremendous kudos to them. But to say also that here's how we have seen the program change our school, change the makeup, change how people are behaving. Sean Butler at Ferndale High School, who's the assistant principal, has said that students who participate in this program have remarked that it really helps them understand why so many of the issues in the real world shouldn't be occurring. They love the fact that they've had an opportunity to go through this experience. Michael Ross, who's been a huge supporter of ours at Anderson Middle School, says, bullying with varying degrees is problematic in all schools, which goes to what you were just saying, right? We would be hard-pressed to find any school in the United States, let alone Oakland County, that doesn't have some issue with social labeling, with student labeling, with bullying. When we add social media, students are subjected to other means of bullying. The Upstander program has been beneficial to our students that it helps students recognize bullying and equips them with the tools to deal with it. Additionally, it helps students become proactive by moving from bystander to upstander. What I think is most exciting about this, especially coming from my position, is that so because we get the data from the schools with incidences of bullying, with incidences of social labeling and how students react to them, we're actually now able to see the outcomes of the program, which is that the number of students reporting bullying, reporting social labeling, taking a stand, and knowing the difference about participating in bad behavior versus not bad behavior have been extremely positive for us to receive. Well, some of the feedback from students, and again, I can make this all available to you, but the two pieces of feedback that I really thought were interesting were the students that say almost all of the students agree or strongly agree that they feel confident speaking up when someone's being bullied or treated unfairly after going through the program. That they have learned strategies that they can use to decrease bullying when they see it, and that they have learned a lot about how unfair behavior makes people feel. And I think that that's so important because so many young people lack empathy. And so by teaching them to kind of look at how other people feel about different situations, we are then able to help kind of change the tide. With that being said, the 2018-2019 academic year is approaching quickly. We've already received requests from over 9 schools that the ISD has received requests from. We are thankful to Oakland County Commission, all of the commissioners who have allotted the funds and their time to defeat the label via Oakland Schools ISD. We look forward to working with the commission in the future to fund the Upstander program in schools throughout Oakland County, and I look forward to any questions that you might have about the program. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for coming here to talk about this program. As someone who's been a champion for bullying prevention programs at a variety of levels, this program, and also train the trainer to help identify and how to address bullying when it's identified, to get it resolved and create a safe environment. I do have some concern. I guess my question is, it seems to be a lot of focus on the bystander role, and I understand it's identify, recognize it, say something. But I do have some concern about shifting the blame and trauma that comes with being a bystander, because there actually is a tremendous amount of research, which seems a little counterintuitive, that, okay, I've witnessed something, what do I do? If I do something, do I become the target? And there's a whole layer of trauma, and there's a lot of research that people who've witnessed this, that in absenteeism and mental health issues and all this other type of stuff. And so I wish it was as simple as you're a bully, I saw it and call it out, and then it goes away. But that's not how this works. And so I guess I'm a little concerned that we are glossing over that effort. This bystander to upstander, making the solution to this is the other people, when the solution needs to be addressing the trauma that's causing the bully to be the bully. And if we pull our attention from that, I think we do a disservice. And so I guess if you can react to that, or how do you reconcile those things? Because the solution is not put the burden on solving bullying on the bystander, because it invites a whole other layer of problems that actually long-term is harmful.
100%, and we agree with you, absolutely. So, and actually, that's why you'll see. When we talk about the topics that Upstander covers, we start with individual responsibility, right? How do we identify ourselves, and if it's behavior that we are actually carrying out? Because I think one thing that is worth mentioning is that a lot of people, I asked you all, what is bullying? What is the definition of bullying when I was presenting, right? I think that a lot of times when we look at ourselves, we've all participated in behavior that wouldn't necessarily be deemed positive at some point in our lives. And we've also been the victims of behavior that is not positive, that is bullying behavior. So one of the things that we talk about is courage. Courage to be a leader, courage to change, courage to actually start becoming, I'm trying to figure out the word I want to use and I apologize for that. The courage within ourselves to start to change the tide. Whether it's within ourselves, whether it's within our friends, whether it's within our school systems. It isn't necessarily seeing somebody and calling them out all the time, because that is hard. And especially for some students who do not want to become the target of a bully's behavior, who do not want to take that on, who cannot emotionally, mentally, physically take that on, you don't ever want to put that on them. Responsibility and judgment. Looking at this idea of social responsibility, what are we responsible for? What aren't we responsible for? Right? There's a different level there. When we talk about social responsibility, we talk a lot with the students about what do we do in society? What are our societal norms? And why are they there? Are they hard and fast rules? What changes them over time? And how do they change over time? Judgment, diversity. We talk about a lot of things before we actually get to bullying because we don't want to put the onus on other students. It's not on them. And we don't necessarily tell them that they need to, while being an upstander is great, there's a number of things that they can do as opposed to stepping in and getting involved. They can alert an adult. They can go to administration. You can even go to the person who was bullied or who had something happen to them afterwards and say, I saw what happened to you. I'm really sorry that that happened to you. I'm really sorry that nobody stepped in. What do you need now to make that person feel less alone, but they're not putting themselves as a target? So there's a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different ways that we work with the students so they can address it without necessarily putting themselves right there in that line of sight, I guess for lack of a better term. We've been working very closely with the University of Michigan, with Michigan State University, with the University of Arizona, departments of psychology, sociology, mental health, education, and early childhood to make sure that the methods and what we are teaching the students does remove that. Because we don't ever want a student to feel like, I saw something, I didn't say something, and now it's my fault. Because it's not. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah, maybe just one or two more, and then we'll move on to our other items. Commissioner Zach.
So is this an evidence-based program, or is this something that has been developed by Defeat the Label?
No, we are in the process right now. It is an evidence-based program. We have worked with, we did not develop it. We worked with, as I was saying, Michigan State University, University of Michigan, University of Arizona, and professors at those to put together this program. Right now we are going through a rigorous evaluation through the University of Michigan. And what we are doing is we are looking at pre and post tests from each session, and we are putting together our evidence and our data for this. So by next year, we will have 3 years worth of data. The program's been going on for several years, and we are excited to see that it does show that it is working. In the state of Michigan, there's only one program that is in the schools, and it's only in Oakland County and Kent County. In some of the schools, it's Oveus. And it is an evidence-based program that's excellent, but the cost for it is extreme.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that we're measuring and evaluating it.
Oh, yes.
And are the materials developed separately and differently than this presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
100% yes.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you coming in and sharing an update with us and helping us understand the work you're doing in the schools to make a difference. And, you know, we have your information, so if commissioners have additional questions outside of here, we'll forward them on to you. But thank you for coming out today. We appreciate the update.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we have one item that's not listed on the agenda that we want to utilize communications for, and it's a presentation of an award by Commissioner Taub. So Commissioner Taub, if you'd like to come forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to call Mike Tim and Jerry Poisson up here. I had the honor of accepting this award for Oakland County GIS, and there were hundreds of applications, and Oakland County took one of the top prizes. So on behalf of NACO, I'd like to present this to Oakland County, Digital County Survey 2018 winner. Do you want to step in front? We'll
Congratulations, keep up the good work. Okay, now I'll ask the clerk if there's any other communications to come before us this morning.
Yes, it's for communications. There's a thank you card from the family of Harvey Waddell, thanking everyone for the lovely flowers. There's a communication from the city of Wixom to the commissioners regarding 2017 Local Road Improvement Matching Fund Project Report, City of Wixom 2017 and 2018. There's one from the City of Troy dated July 9, 2018 to the commissioners regarding 2017 Local Road Improvement Program Report, Elmwood Avenue, Main Street, Livernois to Rochester Road, Board Project number 2017-21. And the last one is from the County Executive L. Brooks Patterson to Chairman Ginjo, dated July 12th, regarding Oakland County Zoological Authority Board appointments. It says, please be advised that I am hereby appointing Ms. Chelsea Glidden to take the place of Jody McLeod as an alternative representative to Oakland County Zoological Authority Board. This appointment is effective as this date, July 12, 2018. For the remainder of the 2-year term expiring May 1st, 2020, or until successor is appointed and qualified.
Without objection, we'll receive and file the communications, and the appointments are confirmed. So that'll end the communications for this morning. Next is a public comment. I do have two individuals, Jeff White and Jody White, that signed up for public comment. We'll have you address us from the microphone in the back. And as is our custom, we ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have a clock that'll help you do that. If you run over, you'll hear beeps, and then I'll just ask you to conclude as you can. If there's someone here that didn't get a chance to sign up for public comment but would like to, I'll recognize you after those that have signed up. So we'll start with Jeff White.
All right, my name is Jeff White. I'm a citizen of Oakland County, a business owner of Oakland County. And I wanted to speak to you today, and I appreciate all you commissioners being out here. I wanted to speak to you about a serious situation that has come about with my family and a lot of other folks that I've encountered in the probate system here in the county courtroom. And that is, you know, on this county level, we've got public administrators in the public court, and 80% of the situations that go on in these probate court where they're taking care of guardians or fiduciary responsibilities, they go just fine. But there is a large percentage that is going very bad with these public administrators. And I want to bring it to your attention because I've tried to go on a local level and haven't had much luck, so I'm coming to you. And their pattern of behavior with these public administrators is a few of them just don't have any accounting practices. I mean, not annual accounting. They don't meet with interested parties within the probate court. They don't have, for one thing, they don't. Some of them, like the one that I have, doesn't even have a physical office. In his situation, he has a PO box. So, I mean, I could go on and on with, you know, improper behavior, but I really believe that some of this is, you know, based on criminal activity. In some cases, I believe there's collusion between attorneys who own this Oakland County probate court system. And I'm here today because I want to see if I can meet with, you know, somebody that would be able to bring some reform back to our county. I mean, I do believe it's a predatory approach. I want to bring to your attention that there are journalists working on this right now. In 2017 alone, there's, from my understanding, there's 19 systemic cases involved with adult guardianships. And I know the press is on it. I'm asking to meet with someone from a senior advisory council on this. I think it was Mrs. Ack to talk to on that other issue that was up in front of us about bullying and things of that nature. I'm here on a Me Too type thing where, I have evidence-based facts, of this kind of conduct in the probate court. And again, it's just a few of them that I've actually been able to sit in there on Wednesdays, and I invite any one of you guys to sit on a Wednesday session in the courtroom, in the probate courtroom. And again, 80% of them will go just fine, but there is a real situation there where these gentlemen are running quite the racket. I mean, it's in my case, I have one gentleman. I'm not going to name his name. I'd like to, but he's actually abandoned real estate in Florida of my father's, for 40 cents on the dollar. Just abandoned it. The reason why he ended up abandoning it, and he doesn't come out in front of the judge to state it, is because he's actually being sued by the Florida attorney that, he's not paying the bills down there. And then I'm sorry to see Mr. Dwyer isn't here because I believe he's the Farmington gentleman here. And I have a income producing property in my family since 1976 in the Farmington area. And that property is in foreclosure over the last 3 years, and I'm paying what I call extortion fee to the county here just to keep it out of foreclosure. They call it a stay fee. I can't, for some reason, I can't believe why they can't pay the bills. But again, I'm looking for someone to look into this. Again, I'm letting you guys know that the press is on this. I'm asking for help if there's anybody to help. My phone number is 734-564-8402. It comes to evidence-based. Boy, I could probably now give you a few families and their names. Mine's only about property, but some of it's even getting as far as where people are asking for money to see their mothers, and I've seen that take place.
So if I can just make a comment, as the time has allotted ran out, but Chris Ward is our Director of Administration here. I'll make sure he gets your contact information. We generally don't reply or engage with individuals during public comment. It's meant for the public to be able to come and comment. But let us make sure we've got your contact information and go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Chris is just right here on the side, so. Okay, next up is Jody White.
That was my husband, and he stole my thunder. We've been fighting this as a family since 2012, and I'm here because I have been a real estate broker and in real estate and appraising since 1983. I found this presentation about SEV and assessment amazing and interesting. I'm also a mother that my son was bullied, and I was sued by my church for being an over-involved mom because I was a whistleblower. So I love these people over here that are totally engaging and trying to help we the people. So I'm going to try to, first of all, under the Lord Jesus Christ, swear under oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because the last time we were in here, we were being foreclosed on. And as a real estate agent, no public administrator should ever be in the public eyes, and we're supposed to trust them. And my son is not able to get his college benefit from Grandpa White, which is his father. And I'm married into the White family, and I am Jody White from Westland. But I am also running for state rep. And so I'm finding this position of commissioner highly, highly, highly honorable. And I want to thank you for hearing the pleas of the people. So today we are putting on the record for the county clerk, Lisa Brown, who I also thought was going to be here, the monthly $210 stay fee that must be paid because of the incompetence and neglect of 2 Oakland County workers. Through 2 people paid from the Oakland County Employment Trust Fund, funded by the Oakland County taxpayers, a public administrator, John Young, and a probate court judge, Daniel O'Brien, failed to oversee the work assignment program that was provided a court-ordered that provided a court-ordered public administrator, Thomas Brennan Frazier, to monitor, preserve, and protect my father-in-law's assets and property while he was suffering from dementia, pulmonary lung disease, and a horrible autoimmune skin disease. Public Attorney Frazier was assigned to my family in December 2013, and he did not do his duty to oversee the payments of the 15, 16, and 17 property taxes for the Farmington taxing jurisdiction through his job description of being a special fiduciary over a family member who had a past history of not being able to pay his own personal taxes. Thomas Brennan Frazier was court-ordered to oversee the accounting of our family that started in '77, as Jeff told you, about the old historical winery building that was purchased by my mother and father-in-law, John and Madeline White. And it has 42 units, income-producing facility with long-term lease for the chimney and the destination spot of the haunted winery. Many of you probably have enjoyed that position, or that party center in October. We are requesting that 21 commissioners of this great county to get a better understanding of the facts and evidence of the John Sterling White case in an effort to win back the family legacy and estate. A lot of these sheriffs escort me out of this building because I'm trying to get more evidence. And I am trying to work as a public servant, as a real estate agent for 35 years, and now as a potential candidate for the House State Rep. Oakland County landowners are in a civil asset forfeiture war against a highly powerful probate system with public administrators who are harming Oakland County citizens. The White family's estate has to be protected and preserved because of the designated legal agency of Prince Law Firm through Amber Atkins and Shaheen Amani, who ended up with the clear facts of elder abuse tactics that were used to take an 83-year-old veteran, isolate him, and then he was found in soiled diapers. My father-in-law, veteran, Korean,
Hey,
war
ma'am,
vet.
ma'am, if you could take a minute and just conclude your comments.
I have 2 more paragraphs, sir. And really, I sat through a lot of presentations that were awesome and amazing, and I've been waiting because I didn't know that I had 3 to 5 minutes. So may I please have 2 more minutes, sir?
You can conclude. I'm
And
just
I'm not
asking you to do it
anticipating
efficiently.
anybody to address this. I just want to put it on the record for the city, for the Register of
So if you
Deeds.
could conclude efficiently,
you.
that'd be great.
Thank you. And again, he just took the 83-year-old veteran who was found isolated in soiled diapers with feces on his bottom when our public attorney was supposed to be, administrator was supposed to be overseeing my father-in-law and his estate and his well-being. So we do have a systemic issue in this county. I'm not going to even go on because thank you, sir. You like to cut people off, and I do not agree with that. We have great people trying to ask questions. You want to shorten up this meeting, and I understand it, sir, because it is long meetings. But I have waited 2 months to sit here and talk with you about this, and I would like to have a meeting with you, sir, as our chairman of the commissioners, because my Mr. Dreyer, I've been sending him emails, and he's not even here. Mr. Brooks Patterson, I asked him to stay. He is gone.
Yeah.
So may we
So-
speak sometime soon with
Yeah.
our court administrators?
So let me just address you, even though we don't get.
Well, no, it's okay. I don't want to overstep anybody's
Let me talk,
bounds.
okay? So you're here to get the board involved. Your husband spoke earlier, right? That was your husband that spoke earlier on the same topic?
Yes, and one more thing, you guys
And-
were all given,
and you're asking-
Mimi also was asking. You were given there's 5 people we've been talking to with cards. So yes, there's 2 families for sure and others,
Yep.
but we're the only 2 here today.
So if I can talk again, you're here to ask
Absolutely.
for engagement. We asked to get your contact information so that we can move forward with understanding an issue that sounds like it could be complex. So I appreciate you coming. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm trying to run the meeting where we have a lot of aspects to it. I appreciate your issue. I appreciate the emotion attached to the issue, and I appreciate your wanting to get engagement, which is, I think, what your purpose here is
Well,
today.
actually,
So-
sir, I am asking for the American dream to be honored and that our property is not in foreclosure, and we want to stop paying the $210 stay fee. So that it's not that complex. So when you have a moment, we will give our information, and then we will talk at a later date, if this is not the forum.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else here for public comment this morning? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move on to the remaining items of the agenda, starting with standing reports. I'll take a motion on the items on the consent agenda, moved by Hoffman, supported by Quarles. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the motion on the consent agenda items.
Commissioner Gershenson? Gingell?
Yes.
Hoffman? Jackson? Kokendorfer? Kowal?
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
McGilvery.
Yes.
Middleton. Quarles. Todd. Teets. Wypert. Woodward. Zach.
Yes.
Berman. Bowman.
Yes.
Dwyer. Fleming. I'm sorry, he's not here. All right, there's 18 yeas, 0 nays.
18 yeas, 0 nays. The items on the consent agenda have been adopted and approved. We'll now move on to the regular agenda, and we have 4 committees to come before us this morning. So we'll start with the Economic Development Committee. I call on the Vice Chairperson of that committee, Commissioner Shelley Top.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move MR 18251, Board of Commissioners resolution urging regional leaders to continue discussions related to improving transit in Oakland County and the region, and I have a report as well.
So we'll move the resolution with the report attached. The report came from the Economic Development Committee that made an amendment to the original resolution, striking a time frame within it, and that was the only change made. So I'll actually move the resolution, supported by Woodward. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Okay, and the clerk's suggesting that we first make a voice vote to accept the report, so I'll move to accept the report, supported by Woodward. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Report's accepted. Now on the resolution as provided with the report attached, I will move that, supported by Woodward. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Gingell.
Yes.
Hoffman. Yes. Jackson. Kokendorfer.
Yes.
Kowal.
No.
Long.
No.
McGilvery.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Teets. Wypert.
Yes.
Woodward. Zach.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
16 yeas, 2 noes.
16 yeas, 2 nays. The resolution's been adopted. And that should conclude the Economic Development Committee items. So we'll move-
I don't think you call Gershenson, but, I mean, yes.
You're right, I'm sorry. I counted you though.
So there's still 16 yeas and the resolution's been adopted. We'll now move on to the General Government Committee items, and for that I'll call on the chairperson of our General Government Committee, Commissioner Christine Long.
Okay, good morning. Still morning, yes. Okay, I have one resolution, Department of Health and Human Services Health Division adjustments to the Health Division fee schedule and position changes. Chairperson, on behalf of the General Government Committee, I move the acceptance of the foregoing report. We also have.
Okay, so I'll take a motion by Long, supported by McGilvery, to accept the report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Report's been accepted. Now Commissioner Long.
Then we'll just, we have a fiscal note attached. We need to move that in human resource.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so we've accepted the report, and we'll now move the resolution with the fiscal note attached. A move by Long, supported by McGilvery. Any discussion? Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like in finance, we had, we had a lengthy conversation about how we landed on these fees. I mean, to recoup the costs it takes to run a tremendous department that has incredible responsibility and is under even greater leadership. I guess today that there's just one last thing that, and kind of brought it up in committee, and I've been wrestling with like how to actually do it, and just given the conversation that we are going to be having an ability to embark on new in-house water testing. I have an amendment I'd like to offer to basically, I mean, it's being passed out and written out. It be it further resolved that the fees for the drinking water analysis for schools, licensed daycare centers, public senior and community centers shall be waived. 2 reasons. One, we want these places, particularly where there are children, to get tested. Yes, we know that there's a cost to be able to do it, but I think in the state of where we are and concerns about water quality, this is something that's appropriate at this time. Over a period of time, if we want to come back and rescind this or what have you, so be it. But I think it's a very appropriate thing that we make sure that this tool is fully available at no cost barrier to test the water quality in our schools. And, I mean, daycare centers and community centers.
So let me just ask, so you're actually proposing an amendment to the resolution that's on the floor? Okay, and so does everybody have a copy of it? Because I don't have a copy of it.
Mr. Chair, we need some more copies.
Yeah.
Fee though.
So, I know this is just being brought out. I was not aware of the amendment, but I guess it would be the board's pleasure if we adopt the resolution as is, which we can always come back and amend any resolution or any policy, or if we want to make this change today as presented. So I'll take a motion by Woodward, supported by Zach, to move the amendment on the resolution. Is there any additional discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Taub, and then...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to have Kathy Forsley, Director of the Health Department, comment on the amendment, please.
Nursery school, preschool.
Good morning. Well, I appreciate the fact that Commissioner Woodward is concerned about making sure that all lead testing for these facilities is free, because we are concerned about our children who are greatly impacted by the presence of lead in their environments, wherever that may occur. I would like to just comment on this in that every single case of lead-poisoned children is followed up by the Health Division, and we leave no stone unturned to determine a source. At no time in the history of our investigations have we ever found water to be a source, but I should also mention that we have included in this resolution that any time an investigation is taking place, all fees for water testing would be waived. And so that is not a barrier. We do not want investigations. We do not want there to be any barriers to determining the source of lead for lead-poisoned children. And as I mentioned before, water has never been determined to be that source.
Okay, so the question before us is, do we want to amend the resolution today as proposed or not? If there's no other discussion on the amendment, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. A yes would be to support the amendment and change the resolution. A no would be to obviously not support the amendment. Commissioner Long.
I just want Kathy on this fee schedule. What is that fee to the schools? It's nominal, isn't it? Or nominal. Where is that fee on here? Are we talking about the water?
Well,
supply
actually,
fee?
Actually, I'm not sure what.
I don't either. So
which fee we're talking about. I was assuming it was for lead testing, but maybe it is.
Right. So we
not.
kind of need to know the fee for the amendment, Dave. Like, what fee are we talking about?
So-
Drinking water analysis
so-
for schools. What does that fall under?
If
Are we
I-
talking well, community water well, type 2 water supply permits, which are $138? Are we? I don't know what fee we're talking about.
And one more comment too is that all of our type 2 supplies, which do include a number of schools in Oakland County, have requirements by the state of Michigan for water testing, of which lead would be a part of it, amongst many other tests that they're required to make. And there are fees associated with all of that. Many of them are not tests that we do in Oakland County. They are done by the state of Michigan. And so it would be impossible to waive those fees.
Okay, so we have the amendment. Commissioner Woodward.
So in like fee schedule A, there's a whole subsection, drinking water analysis for private systems. And the fees are listed there for testing water. And the drinking water analysis is cited in the amendment, and those are the fees we're talking about.
So $10. Very little. All right.
All
Just
right.
pointing that out. They're $10, $12.
Okay,
I
so
think
we
our
have.
schools can afford $10, but.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Taub.
Yes, Kathy Horsley. So you're saying the state already requires this, they do the testing, so,
Well, that's for type 2.
Yes.
That's not.
There's
we're not
many
doing
different types of water supplies in Oakland County, type 1, type 2, type 3.
Can I make a?
And with each of them, there are different requirements.
Yeah, so maybe, this is a new item that came to us today. It sounds like it's an involved item. A suggestion might be we adopt the resolution as it's proposed. We need to vote on the amendment because the amendment's been proposed, but maybe we should put together a group that looks into this, and if in fact an amendment's required, we can bring it back at a later date. But it's the board's pleasure if we want to research or debate it, here today. It's really up to the board. So we have an amendment on the floor that's remaining on the floor requesting a vote. If there's no other discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the amendment unless the maker of the amendment would like to adopt the resolution as is and agree to the fact that we should put together a smaller group to study and look into this.
I think it's more than 1 fee, you know what I'm saying? It's more than 1 fee.
Commissioner Hoffman.
I think it sounds like a great idea, but I think we should follow your suggestion that we pass a resolution, send this back to finance or a little group, and let's get all the facts in
Right. Okay, so at the moment, I guess I'll call on the maker of the amendment. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would be happy to withdraw this amendment to engage in this topic.
So with the board's authorization, I will appoint a small group to research and study this issue in conjunction with the health department. So the amendment's been withdrawn. We're back on the resolution as originally proposed. Any additional discussion? And that is with the fiscal note attached. So any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson, Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
McGilvery,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Quarles, Todd,
yes,
Teets, Wyford,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell.
Yes.
18 yeas, 0 nays.
18 yeas, 0 nays. The resolution as proposed has been adopted. Commissioner Long.
That concludes general government reports.
Next will be our Human Resources Committee that was brought down from the consent agenda, and for that I'll call on the chairperson of the Human Resource Committee, Commissioner Bob Hoffman. Now this was brought down from the consent because there is an amendment to the policy or the resolution that was adopted through the committee process. So Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one item today. Department of Human Resources, Corporation Counsel, Purchasing and Compliance, and Information Technology, Electronic Communications and Use of Technology Policy.
So we'll first take a motion from Hoffman to adopt the resolution, supported by Jackson. And now in front of all of you, you should have a 4 or 5 page document, and it addresses the amendments that are being proposed for this policy under point number 8. So I'll take a motion to amend the policy according to the document provided in the items in point number 8. Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, I have in Finance Committee we discussed this and there was needed some clarification. And so we have an amendment. The amendment to the Electronic Communication and Use Technology Policy. In reference to Human Resources item A, I move to amend the Electronics Communication and Use Technology Policy as presented, which highlights the changes to Section 8, titled Prohibited Use, to correct item number 2 and item number 3 as follows. Item number 2, add non-county sanctioned solicitation of funds for sales. And item number 3, to convey political, cross out the word messages and add activities prohibited by the county merit system rules. and make some typographical edits to the consistency, to add consistency and clarity. Mr. Chairman, I move this amendment.
So I have a motion to amend by Middleton, supported by Woodward. Any discussion on the amendment? So we'll first take a roll call on the amendment and then on the resolution as amended. So I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the amendment.
Commissioner Jackson? Kokendorfer?
Yes.
Kowal?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
McGilvery?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Quarles? Todd?
Yes.
Teets? Wiper?
Yes.
Woodward? Zach?
Yes.
Berman? Bowman?
Yes.
Dwyer?
Yes.
Gershenson? Gingell?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
18 yeas, 0 nays.
18 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment's been approved. Now on the resolution as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Kokendorfer?
Yes.
Kowal?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
McGilvery?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Quarles? Todd?
Yes.
Teets? Wiper?
Yes.
Woodward? Zach?
Yes.
Berman? Bowman?
Yes.
Dwyer?
Yes.
Gershenson? Gingell?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Jackson? 18 yeas, 0 nays.
18 yeas, the resolution's been adopted. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Last committee is our Public Services Committee. I'll call on the chairperson of that committee, Commissioner Bill Dwyer. Commissioner Dwyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 items today. First is the Sheriff's Office Contract Amendment Number 3 for law enforcement services in the Charter Township of Orient, 2017-2018, and I refer to Human Resources and Finance.
Without objection, we'll refer to the Human Resource and Finance Committee.
Thank you. Second item, Circuit Court Family Division, Oakland County Child Care Fund Budget 2018-19, refer to Finance.
Without objection, we'll refer to the Finance Committee.
And our last item is Public Services Department / MSU extension modification of a professional and educational service contract, refer to Human Resources and Finance.
Without objection, we'll refer to the Human Resource and Finance Committee.
That concludes our report.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no reports of special committee, no special order of business, no unfinished business. It'll bring us to new and miscellaneous business, and I know that there are a number of resolutions to be introduced, so I'll start with Commissioner Gershenson, and if everyone else would like to just queue up behind her, we'll recognize you in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce miscellaneous resolution to support Michigan Senate Bill 293, enhanced penalties for negligent failure to secure firearms resulting in harm to children, referred to GG and PS.
So we will refer to the General Government Committee. That's where all the policy items go, and then we'll have the General Government Committee refer them to Public Services.
Sure, thank you. And miscellaneous resolution for opposition to House Bill, House Bill 5916 and 5917, qualified pet shop legislation, referred to GG and then perhaps to PS.
Yep, without objection, refer to the General Government Committee.
And then supporting the on-request use of plastic drinking straws by Oakland County businesses to reduce waste, referred to GG.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee. Commissioner Long.
Okay, this is for Commissioner Crawford, Board of Commissioners Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Fiscal Year 2018 Appropriation Township of Novi resurfacing various local roads, project number 54432, refer to Finance.
Without objection, refer to the Finance Committee. Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have Board of Commissioners Resolution Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Fiscal Year 2018 Appropriation, Charter Township of Waterford, resurfacing of Fremby's Road from Dixie Highway to Walton Boulevard. Refer to Finance, please.
Without objection, refer to the Finance Committee.
I have a second resolution, support for Michigan Legislature to provide funding to increase school safety measures to harden the security at all Michigan schools. Refer to General Government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee. Commissioner McGilvery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Miscellaneous resolution of support of Michigan legislative reform, raising the penalty for concealed and unregistered firearms.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee. Commissioner Bowman.
Yes, I have miscellaneous resolution to support legislation to prioritize and allocate funds to school resource officers in Michigan schools. Requested referral to general government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee.
I also have miscellaneous resolution, Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, fiscal year 2018, City of Pontiac resurfacing of Updike Road from Auburn to Perry, project 51471.
Without objection, we'll refer to the Finance Committee.
And on your behalf, Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, fiscal year 2018, for the City of Auburn Hills, resurfacing of Updike Road from Auburn to Perry, also requested referral to Finance on your behalf.
Without objection, refer to the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zach.
I have a resolution designation of September 2018 as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Oakland County. Refer to General Government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee, and thank you for planning ahead so that we're not suspending the rules. Commissioner Corals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two resolutions, miscellaneous resolution, support for the Michigan legislation reform, raising the penalty for incidents involving stolen and unregistered firearms. I'd like to refer that to GG, General Government, please.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee.
The second one is a Tri-Party Improvement Program, fiscal year 2018 appropriations for the City of Oak Park, concrete repair program on Greenfield Road from 10 Mile to Lincoln Road. I'd like to refer that to Finance.
Without objection, we'll refer to the Finance Committee. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a tri-party road improvement program for fiscal year 2018 for the beautiful community of Groveland. It's a resurfacing and culvert replacement. Refer to Finance.
Without objection, refer to the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kokendorfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a resolution for support of Senate Bill 983 for the creation of school emergency operations plans. I request that be referred to General Government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee. Commissioner Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two resolutions I'd like to introduce. The first is miscellaneous resolution designating September 11th through September 17th, 2018 as Michigan Patriot Week in Oakland County. Refer to General Government.
Without objection, refer to General Government Committee.
Thank you. And the second is miscellaneous resolution in support of the implementation of early warning security measures to curb the threat of gun violence for our students. Refer to General Government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee.
Thank you.
Commissioner Teets.
Miscellaneous resolution from Commissioner Wade Fleming, support of safe school environments for Oakland County students. Refer to General Government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution in support of Michigan legislative reform, enhancing the penalties for lost, misplaced, and stolen firearms, and I'd like to refer that to General Government and Public Services.
Without objection, we'll refer it to the General Government Committee.
And the second one is one that you and I are sponsoring, Board of Commissioners designation of National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, September 24th through 29th, 2018, and I'd like to refer this to General Government.
Without objection, refer to the General Government Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other resolutions to be introduced? If not, I have one. I'll ask.
Yeah. Commissioner Ginchel.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Tri-Party Road Improvement Program fiscal year 2018 appropriation for the Charter Township of Orion, resurfacing of Pine Tree Road from Clarkston Road to Heights Road, project number 54202, and I'll ask that's referred to Finance.
Okay, refer to Finance without objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. One additional piece of new business that I want to walk through today is that many of you know that we announced yesterday, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners announced yesterday the launch of our Live Healthy Oakland discount program to county residents with rising health care costs. The program provides residents an opportunity to take advantage of significant discounts on prescription, dental, and health services. Live Healthy Oakland is open to all Oakland County residents and is provided through the National Association of Counties. The prescription discount card is free. The dental and health discount cards are available for a low annual or monthly fee. The Live Healthy Oakland program is in partnership with the Oakland County Health Division, and residents or anyone can go to www.oakgov.com/livehealthyoakland and find more about the program. I believe we'll also have links from our Board of Commissioners program. So I want to thank our staff and the Health Division working closely with NACO to put this program in place for the residents. So thank you very much. And then I want to recognize Commissioner Kowal as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of Commissioner Hoffman and myself, we just wanted to thank Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard, the Marine Division, and specifically the Research and Recovery team for their response to the unfortunate drowning on White Lake on Sunday. They comported themselves with total professionalism while they were very caring and sensitive of the family and friends of this gentleman who jumped off the boat and just never resurfaced. So they were there. It happened early Sunday, and by Tuesday morning they had found the victim. But social media has been all just talking about what a wonderful job the Sheriff's Department did and how professional they were. So I just want to make sure they were recognized for that. Thank you.
Any other new miscellaneous business or announcements? Commissioner Todd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did mention, I did bring up the wonderful award that our IT department received. There was also another award that the Treasurer's Office received. In addition to that, Oakland County received the following awards: 2018 Human Trafficking Public Awareness Campaign, Accessible Video, another one was Accessible Video Program. Third one was Crowdsourced Holiday Lights Map Spreads More Than Holiday Cheer. Next one, Oakland County Children's Village Juvenile Assessment Center. Next, Oakland County's Policy for Review of Tax Capture Proposals. Next, Opioid Open Data Site. And the final one is Reference Architecture Program. So we really were well represented at NACO, and I think we need to give everybody in the administration on our side, everybody, an applause.
Okay, any other new business or announcements? Seeing none, I'll announce that we're adjourned to August 9th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m. or at the call of the chair. We are adjourned.